Hey guys, what's going on? It's Coach Will, and in today's video, I want to answer a question here about opening a second gym location and also with doing it with a partner. So kind of a two-part question, right? Opening a second location and also opening it with a partner or just partnerships in general. I kind of want to discuss both because this question I get asked a lot from the gym owners in our program. And I figured rather than just type a big wall of text for this gym owner, I would record something for him and also something that we could put out there for other gym owners who have the same question, right? Okay, so opening a second location. So a little story. I own two different gyms myself, two different boxes. Second one we opened in 2014, and when we opened that one, we had learned a lot from the first one that we applied to the second one, and we had a pretty good idea of how to scale and operate that gym. And when we did, we found ourselves in a year to 2 year mark, for that one location, which was like a 3,000 square foot space, not big at all, but we found it pretty much, getting their capacity. We had 150 members in our group program with great attendance. And we were faced with like, hey, do we move into a bigger space in our business park, which there was available. There was the ability for us to move into a bigger space, or do we want to open a second location? So I considered opening a second location, but when I did it, I didn't quite have the gym. I hadn't delegated all the roles of the gym yet. I didn't have a manager. I didn't have an admin person. I was still coaching half the classes. We had some part-time help that was covering the other half of the classes. I was still responsible for doing all the sales and all the day-to-day. I still pretty much worked a 12-hour work day. And when I wasn't coaching classes, I was cleaning the gym and doing everything else, right? And I had a business mentor at the time. It wasn't a gym guy, just a general business mentor who told me, he's like, you shouldn't open a second location or a second instance of a business until you have the first one completely automated and delegated and processed out to where like you could be gone for 2 or 3 months at a time before you have to come back and do something, right? Like you should be able to be gone for 2 or 3 months. And the thinking behind that was that like doing a second location is mentally a lot of work. And sometimes when we're further down the evolution of our first gym, we forget how much work it was building the first location. And sure, the experience of building the first one is going to help us accelerate some things, but you're going to need to be able to focus on that new location for 2 to 3 months at the beginning for sure, especially at the beginning when you're trying to race to get to at least a break-even point. You're going to be there doing prospecting, sales, follow-up, all these things, right? It's going to be a lot of work. And plus, even if you weren't super focused on those things, just the mental energy it takes getting a new gym set up, the mental exhaustion, it's going to take you away from your primary location, right? It's going to take and also the newness of it, right? When you open up a new location, you're very excited. There's that dopamine hit of like something new and exciting happening. And you're pretty much, you're distracted. It's a big distraction, right? And that other location, the existing location, that business, you have to look at it like a child, right? Like you have a child, you birth that child, it's still got to learn how to it's still got to wake up in the morning and brush its own teeth. It's still a growing business. And now you have another child, and now you have to take care of that one. And of course, the first one's going to get a little less benefit out of that. They're going to see a reduction in your attention span because you got to focus on this new one, right? And so that first business should have stable revenue and income, be fully staffed. And if you don't show up today, this week, or this month, it still continues to grow and scale at the same rate, right? And it's not just staying where it is. If you're scaling that gym and you're growing it, it should be able to continue on that same trend scale without you, right? If you need to show up to sell or if you need to be the one doing the follow-up in order for it to continue, then that doesn't mean you're separate from it. And the reason why I share this with you guys is because we have had, it's probably well over 100 gym owners who have inquired about this, and some of them have done it anyways and gone and opened second locations. And then they end up finding out later. It's more often gyms that have already done it coming to us after they've done it to figure it out. But quite often they're not making any more money with 2 locations than they were with 1. And they're doing twice the work, right? They have twice the responsibility, twice the work, twice the rent, twice the payroll, twice everything, twice all the stress that comes with making sure a growing business can pay its bills, and also all the employees that have questions. Plus, add in, now you have to go to 2 places. You have to go check in on 2 different places, right? And that's why it's important the first one be completely on its own, because, you're driving a different direction. You're having to go there. While you're there, you have the little questions that you don't think about, like the day-to-day stuff, where are we going to put the kettlebells, going there and making sure someone cleaning up, moving the dumbbell rack every month and making sure they're cleaning up all the dust bunnies underneath that stuff so it doesn't end up looking like a dirty garage gym, right? All these little things are things that I would, what you don't want to end up finding out is that you have 2 locations, twice responsibility, twice the stress, and you're not making any more money. And that's something that has happened more often than not, far more often than not, with most people who go to start second locations of almost any business of any type, not just gyms, but especially so with gyms because it's a very personnel intensive business. And early on, the gym owner is often the core personnel of the business. You know what I mean? And the part-time role players aren't really wearing a lot of hats outside of just covering a couple 1-hour classes a day for a group gym. Okay. So that's my take on that is don't open a second location, unless the first one's ready to go. Now, the question, partnership. There's an old saying in business that the only ships that have a high rate of sinkage are partnerships, right? Like the saying actually goes, the only ships guaranteed to sink are a partnership, right? Now, I don't think there's a guarantee that'll sink. Partnerships are actually can be awesome opportunities, right? But those partnerships are often done wrong, and they're done for the wrong reasons, right? In bigger business, like the tech world, for example, partnerships are a very strategic thing. The only reason why people go into partnership with each other is because there's a bigger exit opportunity on the end as part of being part of a partnership, right? Being part of a partnership, the idea is that I can be one person who owns the entire pie myself, but the pie is very small. And maybe I'm a technical person, right? Maybe I'm, say it was a tech company, I'm the person that knows how to code the product, right? But because I spend all my time coding, and that's my job, is to be the best coder in the world and build the best product, I can't sell, nor do I have the ability to sell, the time to sell, nor do I have the skill set to sell, because my entire life has been spent in front of a computer coding, and that's why I'm so good at it. And those skill sets are inherently different from the person who's naturally an extroverted salesperson, a marketing person. So a technical co-founder will partner with a non-technical co-founder, a salesperson or a CEO type or an executive type or a marketing type. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 people because you maybe have a head of sales, a head of marketing, chief executive officer, CEO, and a chief technical officer who builds the product. And gyms should really look at it the same way. Is the reason you're going into business with this person because you can build a bigger pie together than you could on your own, right? If you're just going into business together to share the same size pie and hopefully think that it's just because it's less work, it will fail for those reasons, right? Because you'll end up finding out that like a partnership is actually not any less work. The idea with a partnership is that both people work just as hard, but only one specific part of the business, right? If it's 2 people trying to work just as hard at the same thing, that's where you get conflict. Because there's not trust, there's not release of responsibilities, there's not, control given and ownership of a certain division of the company. A business, a bigger business, and a gym is no different, but bigger businesses do a much better job in the corporate world of defining those roles very clearly, and that's that you have a CEO, which their job is overall vision and leadership, often. That CEO will sometimes also wear another hat. If they're a sales guy, they may also be like head of sales. Or if they're a marketing, like a Steve Jobs was a marketing guy, he was also kind of like the CMO. So he was a CEO, but he was also the he was the CEO, but he was also the CMO because like he could do the leadership duties and also the marketing duties. And he was the guy who spoke on stage at the Apple conferences, which was their big marketing event, right? And but they had different people in the chief tech role, right? So you have in business, you have sales, marketing, the tech, or in the gym world, we call that fulfillment, right? Fulfilling on the service. And then you have operations, which is like the people of your business, your team, your management. That's management, essentially, is your COO, your operator would be your general manager, or just managing your people. And for a gym owner, you're often wearing all these hats. You are the chief sales VP, you are the chief marketing officer, you are the CEO, you are the chief operations officer, you are the chief technical officer, right? Now the idea with a partnership is that you're giving someone equity to be the chief of one of those roles. If you try to share roles, it gets very, very muddy and very, very cloudy real quick because again, it's no less work. The idea behind a partnership is that I'm the chief. I'm the non-technical skill set. I'm in the marketing and sales world, so I can scale the sales side of the business and the audience, and then you're going to be the chief technical officer, and you're going to keep up with that on your end, so I don't have to. So the idea is not that we both work less. It's that we both work just as hard at very specific things, and we grow a business faster, and we build a much bigger pie. And as a result, we both own slivers of a pie that are much, much bigger than if we were to own the whole pie ourselves before. That's the reason you go into a partnership. And if that's very clear on both parties, it's not a bro deal. If it's a bro handshake deal of like, hey, we really like each other, and I think it would be really, really cool for us to go into business together, and then we're both just going to both work alongside each other in every role, and then we're also both sharing decision-making privileges on every role, man, that is almost certainly a recipe for disaster for a partnership, because it'll start fun, but decision fatigue sets in very quickly, and there are so many small decisions and data decisions that have to happen in a business, and if you have to run every single one of those through your partner because you guys don't have a clear division of responsibilities and roles, you will grow frustrated really, really quickly. And when you start getting the answers that you don't like, which are going to happen in business, that's okay. But when you get enough of them because you're conflicting and you're tired of being around each other, it starts to get personal. And then you start to cloud your judgment, and you start to make decisions based on emotion and objective behavior, right? So it's very, very important to understand that that is the reason you go into a partnership, and the only reason to go into a partnership. And I know some partnerships in the gym world that are beautiful partnerships. The guys who own OYL Fitness, Jonathan and Mike Wilson. And even they will tell you they still have their things between each other. But because they communicate so clearly on their roles and responsibilities, they do fantastically well working alongside each other. And their gym has grown from $16,000 to over $40,000, almost $40,000 a month. That's just one example of many, many gyms in our program. And those guys have even joined our program because they want that third person sounding board that's an objective third party to make sure both of them are communicating clearly with each other. So whenever either of them are feeling frustrated, they'll come to me first. And they both have done this. And I will never share what the other party's talking about, because my goal is to make sure they ultimately work harmoniously together, because they do care about each other, and they have a deep friendship that goes way, way back, and they ultimately are building something they're both really, really passionate about. And so ultimately my job in that role is just to make sure they're both thinking clearly. But either way, my point with bringing them up is they're an example of very clear roles and responsibilities, where one's very, very much non-technical, and then the other one is very, very technical. And as a result, they've built a really, really good business, and in combination with working with big little gyms and the right tools and resources and stuff like that on the marketing and sales and growth end of the business, and a good, structuring their organizational flow chart clearly through our systems, they have immense leverage now. So the partnership actually works better than a single owner would, right? But the success rate on that's 5%, right? So that means 1 out of 20 partnerships will see that leverage of having a partner, because that's what you're doing. You're leveraging each other. That's what a partnership is. It's there should not be any bones about it. It should be when I go into business with this person, they know it's because they have a skill set that I don't, and I trust them, and I'm going to give them complete autonomy and control. And we're going to establish when, in our operating agreement as partners, when we're going to have conversations and about what kind of things and what boundaries we don't step over. But there's no awkwardness about having that conversation. If it's awkward in having that conversation, if you can't even say to the person before you go into a partnership that hey, we need to establish some very, very clear boundaries around things. You're going to take responsibility for all this, but if it crosses this specific line, then we need to talk about it. And then vice versa. I'm going to handle some specific things. I want autonomy, and I want trust, and I want you to believe in me. But if it crosses a certain line, then we're going to talk about it, right? And if it's awkward to have that conversation, if the other person is taken aback by that, if they automatically think that you don't trust them because you want to establish those lines of communication, then run the other direction. Do not go into business with that person. No matter how exciting the deal sounds, no matter how big the opportunity sounds. And in this position, he's very excited because Casey here saying, I'm in a unique position with my best employee, right? And that's very exciting. That's very exciting. They want, you have an opportunity to leverage this person, right? But that leverage could quickly flip on you, where you're the one being leveraged if the things we talked about in this video aren't being properly calibrated before you go into the relationship, right? So I would definitely say take pause, take a deep breath, get a piece of paper out, write all this stuff down, and be honest with yourself. Does your first location, can it run without you for 2 or 3 months? If it can, then go into the conversation of, should this partnership exist? Is it all the things that we talked about here? Are they clear? Can we define our roles clearly? Can we leverage each other? Can this person wear this hat better than I can? And can I wear the other hat better than they can? And do they trust that I can? And is that why they're going into business with me? And vice versa, do I trust that they can? and we're going to have clear communication, and we're going to treat this like a business, and we're going to try to build a bigger pie together, and both halves of the pie are going to be bigger than the pie would have been had we just owned it by ourselves. If you could do those things, you can win in partnerships. You'll make more money in a partnership. You'll build a better business in a partnership. And eventually it will be less work. But just know up front that a partnership is not less work. It's that you're both going to go as hard into the paint as possible. Now, this particular gym owner, he works with Big Little Gyms. And the cool thing is about working with us, and what I would tell him is, you obviously have the systems that, because he's grown his first gym really successfully so far with our stuff. He's relatively new to our program, but he's had success with this so far. And he's been playing full out in our program and seeing results. And it's helping systemize and automate and process things in his business that are making it so he could easily copy paste this stuff to a second location. And so that's the value that he brings to the table, right? Is he has these systems. And so that's what's great for Casey here, is he has the systems from the first business. But I would still say, if the first business isn't fully leveraging them and it's not fully operational on its own without you for 2 or 3 months, then I still would not make the jump. I would probably wait on that. So that's how I would proceed in this particular case with him. And, for anybody else that might be watching the video, how I would proceed if you are curious of this and how you should move forward with your business, whether this be a gym or any kind of business. To be honest with you, this is really not, what I'm sharing here is not unique to necessarily a gym business. These are principles that would apply to like any business, small local gym, a much bigger business, a tech company, whatever kind of business it is that you're growing. Ultimately, the only reason to go into partnership with anybody, only reason to go into a second location or expand your business into, and how this might apply to other businesses besides gyms, just to kind of finish my thought on that real quick. I know I'm, kind of rambling here at the end, but for a gym, it looks like multiple locations. For other types of business, what it will look like is other products you could sell, right? Like what the average business will do, and I've owned several other businesses besides gyms. And where business owners who are not brick and mortar business owners get themselves into trouble is they start to sell something and they're getting traction, and then they start to see another product that's adjacent, or an upsell or a cross sell or a separate vertical, but also they could sell alongside it. Same thing happens where like they go to now focus on 2 products and they don't sell either as well, and they're always distracted by shiny objects. And I did this with 2 of my previous businesses that ultimately ended up kind of making it harder to want to keep doing the businesses, because I kind of burned out, right? You really want to, when you're growing a business, you want to scale, you want to keep the business as simple as possible with as few of income streams as possible, and go to the moon with that one revenue stream before you diversify your revenue streams into other verticals or other locations or other products. And then you also want to get that product running on its own from a sales and marketing and fulfillment perspective before you jump into another product. And once you do that, then you jump into another product. You can apply those systems to the second product, and you can start scaling all these verticals, right? So that's ultimately how you want to think about this, and these principles apply to every business. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.